Okay, it's time to call the meeting to order. This is the Bond Accountability Committee. It's the 29th of May and it's 6 o'clock and this is being recorded. On attendance, we have all of the committee members here with the exception of Aaron Watts, who had a conflict. Want to welcome everybody here. Let me review the agenda here. The first order of business is going to be a public comment period. Then we have some Bond Accountability Committee business meetings, and primarily that's the selection of the vice chairman. And then we'll talk about an update on the internships and then move into the review of the projects that are going on this summer. This meeting is the last meeting before summer, and so we're going to talk about what summer projects the district has during that and before we meet next. And then we'll review the 2022 financial report, and the meeting should be able to conclude by about 8 o'clock. Reminder to everybody, if you're addressing the group, use the microphones, please. A couple of business points here. This is the last meeting, as I said, before summer. The next meeting is on the 21st of August. And this also is the last meeting of my one-year term as chairman. So I will be chairman through the end of this meeting. And then the committee will have a new chairman, Randy Smith. By the charter, the vice chairman takes over for the chairman. I might just say, Randy, as many of you know, has extensive experience in construction and engineering, and I think is well suited to guide this committee over the following year. His wife also retired from teaching here in the district too, so he's got a vested interest in it. One other thing, last night in this room we had the school board meeting, and for any of you that weren't here, we got to, I presented our latest report on behalf of the entire BAC. The response was well, and I wanted to relay on to the other BAC members here that the school board was very complimentary and appreciative of our efforts. So I'll pass on those thanks to you. Okay, with that, Aaron, are there any public comments?
Yes, we've received 2 public comments. First up is Carrie Bernstein, and then second is Cynthia Cristofani.
Okay, good. Well, welcome. Before I turn the microphone over to you all, let me run through some of the protocol that we use on the BAC for comments. This is a time when members of the public can comment to the BAC, and we will be actively listening to what you have to say. We will not be responding or discussing that, but we take that information in. We do appreciate you all being here today. We limit the discussion to 2 minutes per person, and Shelley will be running the clock, I believe. Aaron will be running the clock. Thank you. And when you get to if you use the entire time, then we ask that you stop speaking so the next person can speak. And if you don't finish, as sometimes happens, you have the opportunity to submit in writing to the BAC any additional information that you want to have. So, Aaron, you say we've got 2 people, and we've got an order for those. We've got the 2-minute limit, and make sure your microphone is on for that. One other reminder, we do not hear complaints or charges against individuals. And this means if you bring up any of the staff members or the school board members or our committee members, that ends your testimony. And any personal matters or complaints through the district, that's just one of our requirements. So we ask everyone in attendance to model respectful behavior, and remember that there are students online listening for what that is. So with that background, please begin. Welcome.
Okay, thank you. At the beginning of the April 26th, 2023 Bond Accountability Committee meeting, it was stated that the outreach philosophy of the Bond Accountability Committee is to inform families, staff, and community members about bond projects prior to their start, acknowledging that this is more of a proactive strategy than has been done in the past, with the goal of increasing transparency and trust that the public places in the committee. How is the Bond Accountability Committee ensuring adherence to this self-proclaimed proactive outreach philosophy regarding the stated closures of community elementary schools in alignment with the 2022 bond financing the Raleigh Hills Elementary School reconstruction? Not a single member of our shared communities can find nor recall any public communication about this information. On page 69 of the BSD's long-range facility planning under utilization, there's awareness that the upcoming 2022 bond funding measure could lead to school consolidation and that it could be problematic for the passage of the bond. School consolidation may be potentially controversial, creates many logistical questions, and may negatively impact the bond measure. Should it be done? If so, where? So why was this information not disclosed on the 2022 bond measure? Why were voters not told that voting yes on the measure would lead to school consolidation and closures? In support of the 2022 bond, voters believed they were voting to support schools, not close them. By moving ahead with the rebuilding of Raleigh Hills before the implications for other schools are clear, the Beaverton School District has effectively bypassed our community involvement and chosen for us. Thank you.
And thank you.
Next is Cynthia Cristofani.
Thank you for the chance to speak. I am a retired pediatrician and grandmother of 2 children who've been thriving at McKay Elementary School, a small nurturing school where all of the staff know all of the students and most of the students know each other as well. As a senior citizen, I voted in every election and I have never voted against a school bond. When I read the ballot about this one, I assumed that it was going to be used for deferred maintenance, seismic upgrades, and other essential things that would make our buildings safer and more habitable for our students. There was no mention whatsoever that my grandchildren's beloved school might be closed and they might be sent to a mega school of 750. I looked in the research to see what size elementary school population is optimal, and I found a very extensive article that reviewed 103 references, and I did send an email to this committee. I hope some of you saw that and may have even looked at that study. It suggested that the optimal size for an elementary school is 300 to 400, where students are not anonymous and lost in the shuffle, but instead get a lot of individual attention and nurturing. And if you look at almost every outcome, whether it's behavior, academic achievement, school attendance, graduation, progression to higher education, all of these things are better in small schools, particularly for kids who are either poor or of racially or ethnically different backgrounds than average. Our kids are thriving in these small schools. They should be updated and made safe for earthquakes. And I remind you also that the bond measure suggested that schools that are earthquake updated could be havens for the community in the event of the earthquake which is coming, as a place to store medical equipment, food, water, other things that the community will need that they may not have in their own homes. Emergency medical services are not going to be available for at least a week or two after the earthquake comes. I sat on the State Emergency Medical Services Committee, and we debated where to store things that people will need. The schools in the communities in walking distance of most neighborhoods are the ideal place. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any others, Aaron?
Those were the only cards I received. I should note too, there were, I believe, 17 comments received online, which I put in the shared folder and sent out to everybody.
So that's it.
Except Casey, does he want to say?
Casey, did you want to say anything?
I just wanted to acknowledge to the committee that,
For those members that may not know your position, let's,
Casey Walatich, Chief Facilities Officer for the Beaverton School District.
thank you.
I just want to acknowledge to the BAC that we are in a little bit of an extraordinary time where we are getting some comments based on the issues going on in the district, that this is a time that we're going to, listen to the community and really come out with a plan in the fall. It was stated last night at the school board and acknowledge those things. So we will certainly keep community and the board and the BAC up to date on how this progresses. But, the charter for the BAC is pretty specific and narrowly outlined for how we're going to operate the projects that are coming up and manage the funds and respond to the school board and the charter. So I just wanted to just acknowledge that. I know that this is a little different than we normally have in our meetings, so with public testimony, but just be assured that we will continue to keep you updated on the progress, and want to acknowledge and keep your hard work moving that we've done for this year and for the rest of the years of the bond. That was it.
Thank you. If there's nothing more, we'll move on to next order of business, which is the selection of our vice chairman. And as we solicited interest and fortunately have 3 people on our board that have expressed interest in becoming the vice chairman. And they are Keith Hobson, John Durham, and John Mitchum. Josh, I'm sorry. Can't read my own writing. So I'm going to pass out, this is a ballot, and you each will be able to vote, and Aaron's going to collect the ballots and,
Can I say something
oh,
before we
yes.
vote?
Go.
All right. First of all, I want to thank the 3 of you for stepping up. In the couple of instances where I've seen what happens with this process, we usually have to sort of push one person forward. So thank you, first of all. Second of all, a reminder to all of us that we all are going to get a chance in this box. So, everyone will get the chance to be the vice chairman and then chairman across the duration of the 2022 bond. And then the third thing I wanted to say is, I think you're all very qualified. You have different experiences that are valuable for what we're trying to accomplish here. But I have a personal opinion, for what it's worth, about who ought to be selected for this first time. And here's the logic that I have that you can listen to or not listen to relative to your vote. I think Keith has a background that is valuable to us at this point in the process. And the reason I feel that way is that we're early in executing the bond. We're sort of figuring out the different documents, both financial and otherwise, that we're receiving and reviewing. And Keith has experience on a similar committee in executing the THPRD bond. And in conversations with him in our original orientation coffee with Josh and Keith, and then also just in further conversations, he's already mentioned a couple of things that I think would be valuable for us to implement as we move forward. And so I think there is value in having him as the vice chairman and, participating directly in the meetings with Aaron in preparation for the next committee meeting, et cetera. And so that would be my suggestion. Again, for what it's worth, everybody vote your conscience, do what you want to do, but that's just what I feel. So thanks.
You'll pass those down. Thank you, Randy. Any other comments before we vote? Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay, give me a second to do a tabulation here.
Maybe play the Jeopardy theme or something.
Reminds me of like Survivor, they count off the votes. Okay, there are 7 votes, 5 for Keith and 2 for Josh.
Good. Thank you. Congratulations, Keith. Okay. And I hope that everybody else maintains the enthusiasm a year from now when we're looking for
Yes, so do I.
more. All right, next order of business, new member selection.
Okay, so I just wanted to mention this real quick. So right now, and I should have talked to you, David, hopefully you're aware of this, but your term runs out tonight. So it doesn't, having rolled over, the reason for this was you and Dick both rolled over from the last one, and each of your terms was limited to that first year. And so it ends tonight. And so in order to have a full bond accountability committee into the future, we have been soliciting for applications. So that application has been live on the website for almost a month now. It'll be open through the end of this week. We've received several applications so far. Once that closes on Friday, Casey and Sunita will, and other people I'm sure will sit down and review those applications and select who will continue to, or who will be added to the Bond Accountability Committee in the future. So yeah, that's it.
What's the timing on that again? When?
The application closes Friday, so after Friday, they will begin reviewing those applications.
This coming Friday.
This Friday of this week, yes. Yeah, and we advertised it on Facebook and LinkedIn and all sorts of stuff. So that is that item.
Good, thank you.
Yep.
Any questions or comments on any of that? This takes us to internship update. You've got 2 minutes.
You know what? I would be happy to do that. Okay, so this is just I believe you guys asked for an update on this, and it's just a more detailed look at what we're doing for internships for this summer. Just a follow-up. So I would like to thank Jason and Gabby, who have put in a lot of work on this, both of them. A lot of, Gabby especially, a lot of time in the high schools, setting up a table at lunches, trying to convince kids to come work with us. And I think it was very successful. So as you can see here, we received 31 qualified applications, which was pretty amazing. Last year, you'll recall we had 3 interns that worked for us. We had probably 4 or 5 applications that we received last summer. So this was really wonderful to see. Very impressive seeing the actual applications come in. It was very high caliber. The quality of the applications was really good. I was really blown away, actually. Of those 31, we interviewed 12, and of those 12, we selected 8. Oh, and you can see on here just an example of a flyer that we put out. We posted these in schools and on Parent Square and Facebook and Instagram and everything. So of the 8, 5 were seniors, 3 were juniors. You can see a lot of them came from Base, also Westview, ISB, and Aloha. We worked together with some of our architect and contractor partners to do these internships. So they're literally on the interview and screening panels with us. 4 of the 8 will come work directly with us on our team. So you can see here where they will be working. One will be with Gabby, one will be with Eric, one will be on Beaverton High School, and the other one on our Stoller project. And then the other 4 will be directly employed by those contractor or architectural partners. So basically 2 on Beaverton High School and 2 on Raleigh Hills. Oh yeah, go for it.
Are these, the kids who were selected, are they enrolled in our CTE programs? Did we check on those or not?
I'm not quite sure the answer of that. It was open to all students. Primarily our outreach was through the CTE programs.
Outreach was, okay.
Yeah,
That's good to
we
know.
went and spoke to the teachers and literally presented in those classes. That was where the outreach was. I can't actually say for sure if they're all in the CTE programs. Mostly they are, though, I believe.
Okay, thanks.
And then the last bullet there was just the specific work that they will be doing really depends on the project that they're working on and who they're working with. You know, certainly working for Brick is going to be quite a bit different than working with Skanska, but you know, hopefully it's all along the same direction in that it's giving them a really good experience as they move forward and getting close to graduation here. So that is it for our internship update. Any questions?
Maybe you mentioned this and I missed it, particularly focused in on the Raleigh Hills rebuild. What will the person be doing for that and the high school?
Yeah, so it'll really depend on the work that is occurring during the summer. So yeah, that would be great, actually.
Some of what they'll do is shadow our project inspectors as they're as the contractor is pouring footings or laying rebar, and so they'll be shadowing the project inspectors like a day a week. They might be working with our project team and looking at submittals with us. They might be assisting photographing and doing reports for us, again, with a lot of coaching and mentorship from our team. And then they all, as you guys were part of last year, you saw them present kind of a summer recap. The group of interns, including those that work with our partner organizations, will all develop the summer report and present that to this committee in the fall. So, but like Aaron said, it's going to vary. I mean, most of you have worked on construction sites or in organizations as a CM. Their tasks will vary from day to day. It might be taking drawings and collating them into Bluebeam or other softwares, or learning how we work in eBuilder. So it's a really good experience for them to understand like how you work in an organization like this and how you work with adults. I think that'll be a good opportunity.
It really depends a lot on their specific strengths and interests. Like last summer, I had an intern working directly with me, and that person did a lot. I was very impressed with their capabilities. I was able to assign him some projects to do. We were renovating a different building, and I gave him some full on hey, I want you to be in charge of doing this graphics project or something, and here are here are the things that I need done, and here are the resources you have available to do it. Take it away. And I'm certain each of the different internship experiences will be something similar to that. So really like a project engineer.
Yeah, I commend you on this program. I think it's really could be a valuable experience for that. My only advice, based on some experience I had in mentoring new kids, is keep them busy because if they're learning how to work in a space and be responsible, there are a lot of things beyond the design process and stuff that they'll be exposed to, and they don't have at least people I've worked with, they don't have necessarily the background to look for work. They need to be told and followed up and given feedback and all of that.
There's always a broom to push around the job site, so it's a good experience.
I was on a project a long time ago, I was head of a program about 200 people, and I was walking along, and here in a cubicle I saw a guy that I knew was a student, and he was laying back like that. I stopped and I asked him, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm counting the holes in the floor on the ceiling tiles." And I said, "What on earth are you doing that?" And he said, "Well, nobody's given me anything to do today." So that's a message I try to,
It's a good
I've
one.
always tried to convey
It's
since
a
then.
real
So
challenge.
good program. I'm happy to hear about that.
Okay, my next topic here was just an update on the work we have going on this summer. So I've been telling everybody that will listen to me that this summer is going to be one of the busiest summers I remember ever having around the school district, as far as just the volume of work and the number of projects going on. So I'm gonna highlight a bunch of projects, and feel free to jump in and ask questions. So the two main ones, obviously, they're not really summer projects, but they're taking place this summer, are Beaverton High School and Raleigh Hills. So on Beaverton High School, work is underway right now. I took that picture, 2 or 3 weeks ago, I think, and that was literally the first day that we were starting to pour concrete on the job. So it wasn't the orchestra pit, but they were doing them concurrently, and this was up by the front of the school, up by the front door. But right now they've progressed past this quite a bit. But this summer is mostly going to be concrete, utilities, and site work. So more of the same. We won't see much going vertical here this summer, but there are a lot of people on site right now. This day there was probably 100 people on site working, most of them doing forms and electrical and everything. But very busy job site right now. Raleigh Hills, we're waiting for summer, and then once summer starts, school's out, we will empty the school and begin hazardous material abatement, which will take a little while. And then, it'll be much like Beaverton High School with concrete and site work and utilities. This is Southridge High School. So these are some of the rooftop units at Southridge High School. These are original to the construction, which was built in '98. And so they're just at end of life right now. So we will be replacing all of these. Large HVAC project, about $9 million. Along with replacing the units, there's some controls upgrades throughout the school. We will also be doing some turf work, a conversion of the softball and baseball fields, and replacing the stadium turf and track surfacing. So Southridge is going to be very, very busy this summer. Yep, that covers that. Yes.
On the Southridge rooftop units, are those a one-for-one replacement, or are they just replacing the guts?
Yep, they're one-for-one replacements. So we'll have a big old crane out there and pick these things off and one day, and then set the new ones as soon as they're ready.
Can I ask you another question on Southridge?
Sure.
Or any other project? When you are working on a big project in a school, don't you try to do the other small ones at the same time in that school?
You know, we typically do try to do that. It sort of depends. If there is efficiencies in the work. So I'll talk next about Capital Center, and there's a couple of good examples at Capital Center of what you're talking about.
There was a inquiry for Southridge, the theater lights, right? I'd sent it to Casey, and I think I'd copied
Yeah.
you.
Yep.
Is that happening?
It's not happening this summer, and the reason for that is we're just now beginning the design for it. So there wasn't enough time to procure the lights and finish the design and get a contractor and permits and everything. So that's not happening right now, but we are starting the design, and I believe it'll take place next summer.
Next summer, but there are plans for it.
Yep,
Okay.
it's going on, and that one, the lights and everything, it's all very accessible. So there's not necessarily efficiencies to doing that along with the HVAC work, for instance.
Thanks.
One of the things we talked about last time with the board goals was the goal of increasing efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
costs. And on those Southridge HVACs, will they be higher efficiency, or will you see?
They are, I don't have the specific details of that, but yeah, they're certainly subject to the new energy code requirements as far as efficiency. They have the new type of refrigerant, and yes, they are more efficient. The exact number of that I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
And that scope is simply the rooftop units? There's no interior work of any type that,
There is interior controls work, I
Okay.
know, which also works towards the efficiency. But I don't believe there's any new units or distribution or anything like that.
the reason I'm asking is because I see the Aloha High School number for HVAC, and it's a much bigger number.
It is.
And so I assume that must be a complete rebuild.
It's a much older school, so it's yes, there's a lot more involved in that one. And it's not rooftop units, it's all internal to the building, and so getting the units in and out is quite a bit more work. Capital Center, similar story. We're redoing quite a bit of the HVAC this summer. It's not the whole building. Certain areas of it have been upgraded, but it's very discontinuous. So we'll be going and replacing several rooftop units and distribution and controls throughout a good portion of the building. This one, as Sunita just alluded to, we are adding a few other projects while we're in there because it is going to be pretty invasive. One of the main ones we're doing is a new paging system in the school. The existing one has really just stopped working, and that's a safety issue. So we're putting in a new paging system, and we're also making some improvements to the CTP program, which is the Community Transitions Program. So we're adding bathrooms, adding sinks, creating some walls and partition to help be able to manage the space and students more effectively. Mountain View, this is a really big one. This, like, in terms of true summer projects, this is probably the largest one we have going on right now as far as impact. This is a seismic upgrade at Mountain View. It'll take place over the next 2 summers. So it's going in and doing a lot of abatement work. Mountain View is interesting in that it has all the ceiling tiles are asbestos containing, all the floor tiles are asbestos containing, all the wall panels are. So there's a lot of abatement that has to take place in advance of doing the seismic work. So that the first 3 weeks of the project at least are abatement. And then we go in and add footings and shear walls and roof-to-wall connections. And about half of the project is also doing deferred maintenance. So we're replacing the ceiling, we are improving the HVAC systems, we're replacing a lot of the electrical distribution throughout the school. A lot of the switchgear that is there is original to the school and you can't buy parts for it anymore. And the panels are ungrounded and a whole mess of issues we're gonna fix while we're in there and have the walls torn open.
Hey, Aaron, on the seismic, first of all, this is a middle school, this isn't a high school, right?
Correct.
The upgrading the structure, is that just to make it seismic compliant, just reinforcing the structure that's already there? Or do you have to put in new shear walls or what?
It's creating new shear walls. I mean, it's a little bit of both, but it's creating new shear panels for the most part. You take an existing wall and, remove the facing on it. You put in a new footing, put in the new shear wall with the roof or the floor to wall connections, and then the roof to wall connections to give nice, good, strong shear panels throughout.
And that'll bring it up to current code?
Yes, correct. Yep, to life safety. And that's throughout the school. Yes.
Aaron, is that Howard S. Wright? Are they the contractor?
Howard S. Wright's doing this.
Is that going to be the same team that finished the Aloha lobby against all odds by chance?
It is not the same team.
Okay, all right.
Nope, different team entirely. What else? Yeah, there's a lot of stuff we're doing there. This speaks to Sunita's question again, that while we're in it's a very destructive project, removing all the ceilings. So that's the right time to do a lot of other stuff while we're in there. It'll take place during this summer and next summer. A portion of the work will actually go beyond the summer. There's like 4 or 5 classrooms that are the most impacted that construction will roll into the fall a little bit. So we actually are moving portables on site right now to accommodate that displacement. Stoller Gym and Classroom Addition. This is a nice one in that it's just a brand new addition on the back of the school where the portables used to be. It's to address capacity issues, and so we're adding 4 classrooms and a gym. They only have 1 gym right now. And that is underway now. It's just getting started. And it'll be done next summer. Westview High School, this is creating there's several things going on at Westview High School. The main one here is creating a new secure entrance vestibule. Just found out we got the permits for this one issued today, so that was really exciting. And that'll start here as soon as
Aaron,
school's
can I
out.
ask a question on
Oh,
Stoller?
yes.
How many gyms do they have? Is this the only gym that they're going to have, or do they have already 1 gym?
Are they main gyms?
Second one. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. So this is the second main gym. There is one other main one, and they have also like an auxiliary one. Okay, back to Westview. So we're doing the office relocation here is the main effort that we're doing. Reworking some of the old office space to make it more functional. And then we're doing quite a bit out on the field. So we're replacing the stadium turf. It's at end of life, and the track surfacing also. And then creating a concessions building and bathroom building, which there is none currently. Yes.
So I know they're different projects, but there were a couple of things in Aloha that really slowed that project down that were unforeseen. And so I'm not suggesting that you're going to run into unforeseen things here, but it's a very hard deadline based on school reopening in the fall of '24. Anything special you're doing that you learned from Aloha or anything like that you're taking to this effort?
Yep, I can speak to that on a couple of points. Number one, Westview is not nearly as old as Aloha, so we have way better as-built documentation of the school. Also, the footprint is a lot different, and the way we're approaching it is a lot different. It's not really it's not what you'd imagine like Aloha is as far as the impact. We're really just adding a steel structure on the front of it, so there's not nearly as much utility work or underground or structural work associated with it. So there should be a lot less. Also, we are planning on it not being open exactly in time with start of school. It will go into the fall by a little while. So we've been the goal will be to speed it up and have it done, but we are planning for it not being done by the time school opens. It should go into September a little ways. So we've been working on how that works as far as distribution of students and everything.
A question,
Yes.
back up from a previous word. Any issues foreseen, or are we good shape right now on permitting on the projects for this summer?
It's a real mixed bag right now, I would say. Westview, I believe we're in really good shape for the office. Stoller, I believe, is now in pretty good shape.
Mountain View?
Mountain View, we have the permits for that one. Capitol Center, I believe we have. Southridge is a little bit up in the air right now. It's one in the county, and it has a lot of coordination with Clean Water Services. It's not with the county. I said that wrong. It's the city. It's with Clean Water Services right now for site development for the turf field. So we're working on
Not for the HVAC.
the HVAC one is good.
That's not,
Yeah, the site development ones end up.
that's under maintenance, the HVAC?
Yeah, it still requires permits, but it's a building and mechanical permit, so they're quite a bit easier to get. All that to say, we're in mostly pretty good shape. There are a few that are high priorities that we're still working on. What else here? So we have a whole group of projects. I'm just going to run through these, but a bunch of exterior and playground and other types of projects. We're adding artificial turf in the courtyard at Springville. We're adding a track at Beaver Acres. We're adding playgrounds at Fir Grove and Almonica. We're doing quite a few concrete and paving repairs just across the district. Sidewalks that have failed and, potholes, that sort of thing. We have a contractor that's going to go around and fix all of that. Not all of that, a lot of that. And then here are some other things. So I did not really talk about modernization, but there's a lot of modernization projects going on over on the right. We're doing site fencing at quite a few schools. We're upgrading the kitchen at Findlay. Five Oaks is also a large project underway right now. It's a continuation of, it's in its second summer of the seismic upgrade and roofing. At Greenway, we're preparing right now for adding some parking spaces. We're adding portables. We're redoing the kitchen and doing a number of other modernization things. We're getting started on adding water bottle fillers, which is a district-wide thing. And that project will be ongoing for a year or two, probably. We're adding some seclusion rooms at Jacob Wismer and Errol Hassel, and we're beginning the security upgrades district-wide. And that's just the construction projects. So we have a number of projects here that I've listed that we're beginning design on also. Yes, Randy.
The Aloha HVAC schedule, what is it for that? They're not going to get it all done this summer, are they?
Aloha HVAC is scheduled for next summer.
Next summer, okay.
Yeah. And a few risks and challenges that we have here. Project costs and contracting is always a risk. I feel like we're in pretty good shape with that right now. We're pretty much contracted on everything we've got taking place this summer. Permitting, as John alluded to, is a problem, and it's something that we're working very closely with the different jurisdictions on. It's closer than it was last month.
Is there a particular trade that seems to be more of a issue than other trades?
With you
Permitting.
mean as far as the city? It varies. Right now, it feels like it's building department, but a lot of times it's site development. So, I don't know. It's all a problem, quite honestly. It's just that it's a complicated thing. It's a complicated process, and it seems like it gets more complicated all the time. But we're working through it. Unforeseen conditions is always a problem. Mountain View, I think, is really one that leaps out at me as having probably it's going to have unforeseen conditions. So making sure we have contingency plans in place, making sure we're getting in early and getting the look-see above the ceilings and everything as early as possible. Definitely the Aloha office thing was a lesson learned, and how can we, the delays we saw in Aloha wouldn't work very well on a project like Mountain View. And so how can we come up with contingencies for those things? Weather is always a problem, particularly towards the end of summer, when we get into August. Really start watching the weather pretty closely for some of these roofing projects. Five Oaks being a big one we have this summer. Supply chain issues. I think we've got a lot of that figured out now. We've been I've mentioned this several times, but we really have looked at backing up when we're procuring these jobs and ordering materials as much as possible, really pushing that to the limit. So I think we're in pretty good shape as far as materials right now. And then workforce availability, that is always going to be an issue for the foreseeable future. We, just the number of people, the number of bodies available to do the work on these jobs really is limited right now. And, the number of people retiring exceeds the number of people entering the trades. And we see it on the jobs. We see it in the schedules when they come out. It's just schedules are just taking longer right now, it feels like. And you see it in the quality, I feel like, too.
So a question about workforce. Years ago, we had a project in Orlando, Florida, and it was a semiconductor manufacturing facility, which is pretty complicated and impressive buildings if you've ever been in Intel or anywhere like that. But Orlando is a recreation and amusement park, et cetera, place with lots of hotels, et cetera. And the contractors were very focused on serving that group and less so on serving a project like we had. And I have the concern that maybe with Intel and others ramping up work, it will compound your problem. So I don't know what your contractors can do proactively, short of offering them overtime or whatever, which then costs them more money, which is hard to do on a fixed price or not to exceed contract.
The best thing that we found to deal with that is making sure we don't have schedule crunches and setting up these project schedules to be reasonable. Like, we've done that with Raleigh Hills, we've done it with Beaverton High School, and it really makes the jobs more attractive. There's less risk in it for the contractors when they're not having to build in those costs for acceleration into the work. That's probably the main thing we've been able to do. And a lot of it comes down to being a good owner to work for, having a good job site culture. We really stress that with all of our CMGC partners, and being a place that people want to come to work.
Last time you mentioned that we are self-insuring ourselves, right? So when we have a project like Mountain View, where we're expecting unforeseen event, whatever in the project, how does that work with the self-insurance piece?
Yeah, so the self-insurance you're referring to is the OSIP, the Owner-Controlled Insurance Program. And for our projects, Mountain View is one of them. It is a general liability insurance policy, and it covers very specific things. It does not cover things like unforeseen conditions.
So it does not?
It does not,
So it
no.
will
It's
come
more
from
like
contingencies.
people getting hurt in some cases, or construction defects. Those are the type of things covered. Unforeseen conditions are covered through our project contingencies. So when we establish the contract with the general contractor, there will be a construction contingency that is available to go to that sort of thing. And we also retain an owner's contingency within our project budgets that we use to pay for that.
Okay, thank you.
We have a pretty good sense at a macro level of how much we expect there to be in terms of those claims, and we carry a budget for it. And that is that for that presentation. So next we had the financial report, which Jason will be doing here. I never know how to get this full screen.
All right, I'll go ahead and get started. So for the overview, you can see here on the screen how many projects we have underway. So these are projects that are active, that we're either doing construction on, design, et cetera. You can see our current budget, commitments, our actuals paid, and then any uncommitted budget. So projects that are forthcoming will come under the uncommitted budgets. Next slide. Executive summary. So we just highlighted a few items here. So and we're going to go through some of the project or some of the bond report financials here after this. But we've added the full budget for the Aloha High School HVAC project. So you'll see that in some of our tables after this. We've been adding additional budget for modernization and deferred maintenance, and you'll see some of those budget changes and reallocations in the report. From a schedule perspective, BHS is currently tracking on schedule for permits, which is good. There have been regular meetings with the jurisdiction just to make sure that things are proceeding as planned. And in the fall, when we see you guys again, hopefully this will not be a conversation to be reflecting back on. That's our plan. Yeah.
Just a quick question on that chart. If
Yep.
I'm reading that right, the cash flow expenditures are falling a little bit below the projected amounts to
Yep.
date. I guess there's kind of multi-parts to this question. One is there a particular reason? Second is, do you expect it to catch up by the time you hit your 3-year window? And then the third part of that, obviously, is, are we at any risk of not meeting the spend down requirements for arbitrage compliance?
I can answer that. Yeah, we are lagging, and I was a little overly optimistic on what the spend would be so far, but I do believe we're going to catch up. I believe we're going to catch up next month. This summer, we have a lot of work going in place, and that curve is kind of flat, but I expect it to spike this summer.
Yeah.
And so I believe we're on track for the 3-year. We work really closely with our finance manager on this, who, as you've seen, has been doing really good with the interest earnings. But no, we won't be at risk of arbitrage or anything like that. It's close enough that we'll be in good shape. And so what our main concern is as we look towards that 3-year is, when do we need to get ready for the bond sale, which we're starting to narrow in on that.
Yeah. And the two of the lines, the one that you're seeing that's sort of beginning to, looks like it's kind of flattening out, the contingency can sometimes also be part of that, right? Because hopefully you're not spending your contingency if you don't need to. So it's naturally gonna start to diverge, and then it should resume. It should sort of re-engage with that top line again. Yep. Challenges. It's still a challenge. The permitting changes that we've been going through. So sometimes it's permitting changes where the jurisdiction has different requirements than maybe what the code says, and we're not realizing those until the drawings are submitted and they're giving us contrary feedback. And in some cases, it's just the jurisdictions are changing their requirements for their processes, and we're running into them as they make those changes. So that's one of our challenges. The upside is we're in constant communication with them, and we've been kind of escalating the conversation all along the way to try to improve the success of our future projects. And then we're also seeing that some of the utility providers are having similar challenges where like PGE or others, they have a backlog of work, and we're getting caught up sometimes in that backlog. So having earlier conversations with those folks to try to avoid those issues in the future.
I have got one question on that. With regards to plan reviews, previous project that I've been involved with, the different interpretations on NFPA, how many fire marshals are getting their review, or hopefully it's just one or two instead of 5 or 6?
I think I understand the question. So we have a pretty good relationship with TVFR, and to my knowledge, we've not run into any issues with the fire marshal. That's not been the sticking point. It's been more the actual.
So they're signing off on the plans?
Yeah, we've had really great success with them.
Good.
Part of, I mean, you always have challenges, sometimes miscommunications, but they've been a really good partner. So when we run into those issues where maybe our architect misinterpreted their feedback, they're looking to help us find a solution that meets their requirements, but works within the parameters of our project. So
Okay, thank you.
they've probably been the best to work with. Yeah. The financial statement here is really just kind of an overview. I'm not going to jump into the details. There's not any, we don't have any new interest for this quarter that was reported last time we met. But this is just kind of an overview. The next sheet, you're going to see a new color on the reports going forward. So a reminder, if it's yellow, it's a budget change. So that could be reallocation of budget to a different line. It could be fully funding a project. We've also, so that's what the yellow is. If it's grayed out, not to be confused with blue, but gray, if it's grayed out, that means the project is complete. And this month, we've added sort of a peach color shading, and that is if there's an error that we discovered or if we got feedback and noticed a discrepancy, we're just showing it because we're updating this report, we're making sure you're seeing the same thing that we're seeing. So under the Westview project, there was an error discovered last month, and so we've picked that up and corrected it in this report. And as I said, most of what you're seeing here, and we'll go into the log, which is the next sheet, are budget reallocations, shifting funds around. We also, you're now seeing every single project that we have identified on this. So it's going to be longer than what you've seen in the past. That was a request that you guys had, was like, are there other projects that we don't know about? Some of these don't look like they're funded. So now you're seeing all of it. We may reach a point in the years to come where we need to start hiding some cells so that you can actually kind of see it more quickly. We'll talk about that right before we get to that point. Under the contingency transfer.
So just a second before you move on.
Yeah.
Aaron, as you know, I probably spend too much time looking at these numbers, and then I confuse myself and have questions. So I meant to catch you before the start of the meeting, but we got to talking about other things. So could we maybe talk about a couple of things when the meeting's over?
Yeah,
Rather
absolutely.
than bog down the meeting with,
Yep, sounds great.
thanks.
Under contingency transfer, the only change this month has to do with the Westview High School bathroom concession. So that's line 21. It's the next table here. Yep. So that's the only change on this for the month. And this is it was a result of the, I think we talked about this a little bit last month, but when the bids came in, the scope aligned with the requirements of the project, but the costs were higher than they were expected. So you're seeing the contingency transfer here. Okay, next slide. This one actually spans two, and I'd say go to the second. The second page is probably the one that next month we got it here actually. So line 30 was related to the Westview project where we discovered an error last month, so we've corrected it here. So that's line 30, and then 34 is really, that's the Aloha High School HVAC project, so that's fully funding that project. The next one, we're reallocating funds for the, let's see, for deferred maintenance and school modernization. So you can see line 35. It's combining those budgets again, kind of like what Sunita was asking before, when if we can see an opportunity to be more efficient. So we're combining the classroom addition with classroom modernization. So we'll have one contractor do both of those projects. Let's see, Westview High School, adding funding for additional design scope. adding some shock pad and drainage improvements, so you can kind of see some of the changes we're making there. Let's see. And then the last two are new projects.
Just a question on this one, and it jumped out because the amount being transferred out of unallocated
Yeah.
to the low HVAC is so large. And then looking at the unallocated number for deferred maintenance, over half of it is now used and allocated. Are you comfortable that what's remaining will get to the critical deferred maintenance projects you have left, or is there something that may not get done? Or
You
how are
know,
you
we knew
prioritizing?
there was never going to be enough in that bucket, and we will, when we get to the end of the bond, we'll probably look to use some of the remaining program reserve contingency to go towards that. But we certainly have prioritized the highest need projects up front, and that one just being large high school with just really poor HVAC system at end of life. It is a big number and it's a big project, but we feel generally pretty good about where we're at. We're, with it being about half of it spent, you know, by the time we actually spend that, we will be about halfway through the bond. So I don't think it's unreasonable.
So about where you thought you would be? when
Yeah,
allocated.
it's about where we thought we'd be.
Okay, great.
And that same, on the HVAC at Aloha, since that's an older system, is it so old that the design is such that the design is obsolete, that it needs to look at a value engineered different design, or are you planning on a one-for-one replacement?
It'll be a whole new design. Yep.
Okay.
And we're just starting. I can't really speak to all the details on it right now, but we've had an engineer working on it for 6 months or so now. So
Okay.
they've got a pretty good design going, but it'll be a whole new design.
Okay.
Next slide. So next slide is our equity report. I'm going to zoom in a little bit on that one. I think we've been kind of talking about the equity side of this for a few months now, and we continue to see incremental growth, which I think is good. We're not seeing any changes that are headed in the wrong direction. And like we've noted in the past, we don't discount any trades. So this is sort of we count everything, and that's probably reduces what it actually would be, but it's just the most efficient way to report on it. Any additional items on that?
So we've included all these slides on project updates. I really kind of hit on a lot of this stuff right now in the last presentation. Whoops. So I'm really just going to skip through this real fast, and if anybody sees anything you want to hear about, just stop me.
Hey, Aaron, before moving on, you've got on that Beaverton High School rebuild, you've got 2 dates in May. It's the end of May. Were those achieved?
That would be the foundation permit approved and first footing pour. Yes, that was achieved. Yep, and matter of fact, that was probably that picture you saw up there earlier. The grading only permit for trade partner parking was submitted. I believe that has been issued. I'm pretty sure that has. As far as the permits at Beaverton, we're on track right now. What we don't have is the full building permit, and that is the thing that we're going to need right now. It is such a large building permit package that it is beyond their capacity to just sit and do it all in one chunk. So they're releasing it in sections and pieces. So hopefully next we have our foundations and footings permit. Hopefully here in a couple months, we'll get our core and shell permit, and then fire and life safety and mechanical, and everything kind of flows from there. So it's all broken up into pieces, trying to match our schedule.
So I'm hearing that the permitting issue that we talked about in the last meeting is improved.
It's improved, yes. It's not resolved, though. It's still a risk.
Is the permit on the critical path for all these projects?
Not for all of them, but for several of them, it's pretty close to the critical path, I would say. It's, for Beaverton, certainly, it's very close. And we have some nice pictures here, a new auditorium, and then I believe this is the one of the CTE classrooms. For Raleigh Hills, I believe we did just get all of our building permits.
We're missing the county right-of-way permit right now, the facilities permit for our right-of-way work. We've got all of the approvals through the city, so all of our fire, life safety, structural, mechanical, electrical, plumbing permits are ready to be issued, just pending getting the county's facilities permit will allow the city to release all of the building permits.
One thing we're working on Raleigh Hills right now is working with Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue. They're going to, as soon as school's out and we empty the building, they're going to utilize it for a few days to do some training and stuff in the building. So that'll be a pretty neat opportunity. Stoller is in really good shape right now. Last month, building permits were a big issue, but I believe we're in pretty good shape with those right now. That's all good to go. In fact, we are mobilized on site and getting rolling out there. Oak Hills, we're just beginning the design on. And this is a classroom addition and covered play structure and playground. And this will be next year. Westview High School, I already talked about that. A lot going on out there this summer. And I already talked about Southridge and Capitol Center and outdoor learning and seismic upgrades. The one thing I guess I didn't mention was our next seismic project will be Meadow Park. And so we're just beginning the design on that one right now. And looking at, we're probably going to add a roof replacement. We did a really thorough investigation of the roof and whether or not we could recondition the existing roof, but it looks like we probably will not be able to recondition it, so we'll replace it at the same time as the seismic upgrade.
It seems like you're making good progress on fitting in seismic upgrades here and there. I think it'd be worthwhile for the committee to hear an update on how you're chipping through
Okay.
from when we heard
Yeah, certainly.
a year ago. So maybe sometime this fall you can do something like that because
Okay.
it seems like you're making good progress.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. This is modernization. So we have finished the Tech AV project, which is a huge project. You can see some statistics there. Really happy with how this one went. Our IT team at the district did a lot of this work themselves, which really saved a lot of money and really worked very well. They would show up to each school in the morning, basically before school started, roll these the new equipment into the classrooms, give a little orientation, and been really happy with how that project has gone. So we now can say that we have standardized AV technology in all classrooms in the district. And then, yeah, modernization. There's a lot of modernization going on here, so a bunch of different schools. And a couple of deferred maintenance projects to mention. We're just getting started on design work for some stage upgrades, which are at Southridge and all of the middle schools. So this is lighting and sound upgrades. We're preparing to do a replacement of Terra Linda's roof next summer. We have a freezer replacement at Stoller this summer. And then we just selected PNC Construction as the CMGC for the Aloha High School project for next summer. Security upgrades. There's a lot of stuff on here. The main thing I would mention, I guess, is that we've selected one firm who's going to be the security integrator for all of the intrusion, access control, and camera projects in the bond, which is going to be Paladin Technologies. They're a good firm who we've done quite a bit of work with, and so we now have a good contract set up with them that they'll be able to do all of the card reader and camera work as we move forward through a master agreement.
Hey, Aaron, on that, are they engaged in the new construction projects too, or just upgrades?
Yeah, so we just now finalized that contract. So some of the new projects they are not involved in, like Bearden High School, for instance, is someone else. So they will be engaged on our behalf in terms of design review in order to, they're very technical systems and they will participate with us in making sure it's consistent with the other schools and integrated and everything. But they also are doing some of them. Like I believe they're doing Raleigh Hills and Stoller. So it kind of depends on bid results. And that is it for this presentation.
So you guys have a lot of work that you've reviewed. How are you doing staffing-wise to have PMs and response to questions and all that kind of stuff that goes on all of these?
Yeah, we're good. We're fully staffed right now. We have 8 project managers and 8 project coordinators who really do most of that work, in addition to myself and Eric and Jason and Jeff and a number of other support staff. So we're busy. We're very busy, but we're in a good shape as far as staffing right now.
Maybe a comment to the committee. You can see all the dates there for next year's meetings, the continuation of this year and then into next year for the Bond Accountability Committee. So note them in your calendar. And what's the project tour in August? Do you have anything picked in particular, or?
You know, Casey and I need to sit down and come up with an itinerary, but I roughly speaking, the plan would be to hit all the projects. Maybe not all the modernization projects, but certainly the big ones.
Okay.
We'll fit in as much as we can in 2 hours. I'll get a megaphone and stand in the front of the bus. We drive around town.
Maybe a flag that you could carry around as we're going. Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Yep. And I believe that's it for us.
Any questions?
Hey,
Any-
yeah, I was hoping since we got through our agenda that we could ask some questions as it really does relate to the closures that were proposed.
I defer to Casey and Carl.
That will be handled in a different setting as far as the charge or the charter of this committee. So it will be coming down the road and other bids to have that information. We publicly said what we're doing now with that. That's kind of the best.
I can add a little bit to that. That facilities committee it's been paused. They are going to evaluate and analyze and then come back. So right now, I don't think there are any decisions being made.
Yeah, I understand that. I guess what I'm thinking is we're looking at how the voter-approved bond package is being spent. And it does seem germane that the decisions that we are making around the size of the school has impacts on other things. And so it does seem like it is relevant still to this committee to understand some of the background and the levels of public engagement that went into the creation of the bond. I think everybody here wants to see the bond successfully executed because we believe in the school district and we want future bonds to also be successful. And so we're providing citizen oversight. So it does seem relevant to understand how these bonds are crafted and what's going into that. And at least the public comments that I read, the network of people that I know that I'm on this committee has really centered around a level of transparency going into that bond. And so it does really seem germane to the work of this committee to have an understanding of when and how some of those decisions were made that the bond is supporting that is having trickle-down effects. Okay.
Thank you, Ryan. Any other points? Josh?
Just for Aaron, maybe something to think about for not our project tour, I guess, in August, but the October session. Skanska, when they came in, they gave a presentation about the Respectful Worksite program that they're implementing. And now that they have, by October, they're going to have probably 300 people on the site. So it'd be great to hear either from your perspective or even Skanska, how that program is going, how they're measuring, diversity, equity, inclusion, just how that implementation is going. It'd be really helpful to hear back. That's another way we keep people on these projects and not on other ones. So it'd be great to get a report back there.
Yep, absolutely. Go.
Anything else? Okay, with that, I'd like to begin by thanking again the members of the public that came in and provided comments to us. And I'd also like to thank everyone for the opportunity that I've had to serve as chairman over this past year. I think that we have a particularly strong membership with extensive and varied experience. You demonstrate that with good questions and pursuing the school board's interests. One of the school board members last night said, "Thank you for allowing me to sleep well at night, because I know you all are looking at what's going on there." So carry that forward. And I'd like to particularly thank Sunita for her engagement over the past year before I step out the door. So the next meeting is on the 21st of August, as we said, the tour. And with that, we're adjourned.